Hello, everyone. Um, I hope you can hear me. If you have joined and you can hear me, just let me know. Okay, just trying to make sure that some people have joined. Can you see or hear me yet? Okay, yes, I think we're live now. Yes, so hello, everybody, and welcome to today's LinkedIn live session. And if you have joined, welcome. The purpose of today's session is going to be a very short one. And what I'm trying to do, first of all, how's my audio? If anyone can hear me, can you please confirm that my audio is good? Oh, yes, Aisha, lovely, 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 lovely. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that you can hear me. That's awesome. Thank you so much. So, yes. So the purpose of today's session is the title is How to Grow and Excel in the Practice of Strategic Communications. My name is Shola Abulu. I'm the principal consultant of Shola Abulu and Associates, and we're a strategy and communications consulting firm. And we do all things communications, but that's enough about me. So today's session is going to be like in live what I would say lecture mode. I talk for a few minutes, maybe 20 minutes or so, and then I take questions afterwards. So if you have joined, it would be lovely to to just put in your comments as they are coming in. Say, ask the questions and the comments, and then I'll take the questions afterwards. But I just have a few slides that I'm going to share with you. And the topic for today is how to grow and excel in the practice of strategic communications. The reason why I decided to do this, first of all, and by the way, if you can't hear me well, my audio drops at any point in time, please just let me know, say something in the chat or whatever that makes me know. And thanks, Aisha, so much for letting me know that, you guys could hear me. So, yes, so I thought about it. I felt, first of all, I think strategic communications is a buzzword for a lot of people. People just don't really know that this is really a thing. It's actually a practice area. It's not just a buzzword. There's a field, there's an entire field that is dedicated to strategic communication, and that there's a spectrum in that field. It's also a professional practice, so it's something that you have to grow in, just like every professional practice. If you're a medical doctor, your life as your knowledge and your understanding doesn't end the day you leave medical school. It's in fact, it's just starting. You have just left one phase of school for another phase of learning. So you then go into practice area. If you want to be a specialist like a cardiologist or a gynecologist or an endocrinologist, you then have a different path of practice waiting for you, even though you have the general medical practice that you've gone through with all your mates. The same thing with law, the same thing with accounting. Every profession has it. And you find out that for all of those practitioners, despite the fact that they've qualified, they still continue to learn both in classroom and out. In fact, there's an anecdotal story that I will share before I start this lecture, where for me, because I'm going to be talking about the theory and the practice of strategic communications, even though I said grow and excel in the practice. But the message I want to pass across is that it's impossible to grow in the practice of strategic communications without having the theory as well, because strategic communications is a profession that it's the art and the science of it. So it's not something that you just learn by, oh, because I've done. You can't just learn it by experience alone. And I'll give you an anecdotal experience that is similar to this. So I remember once I had to have a medical procedure done, and it was done by an old professor, very old professor, very well known in the medical field in Nigeria and all of that. And when he did it, in fact, he did it the way he knows how to do it. And it required my not having, not eating for like 2 days and all of that. And it was very like I couldn't drink water. I didn't even mind the not eating, the not drinking water. I was getting so dehydrated. Then one of the doctors mentioned to me, he said, you know what? That is because of this guy is old school, though, that's why he did this procedure the way he did it for you. That if I see another person in the next ward who is younger and is a younger doctor and learned it a different way, that he used modern techniques, that person had their own procedure after me, and the person is already drinking water. I was like, what? So I was like, so why did you people recommend this guy? They said, hey, they don't have any, it's whoever they send the person to. I was stunned. So I started thinking about that. So I was like, okay, so this medical doctor, he learned this thing. And he's a very senior guy. He's a prof, in fact. He learned this thing before laser surgery, before so many things were available to teach it in a particular way. And he did not go back into the classroom because you know what? If you don't go back into the classroom, you cannot learn a new surgical technique on the fly because you will not test with the patients live. So the younger doctors were able to use modern technology. Even when that technology was available, old school guy couldn't use it. I will just park that there. And that's what happens to you in your profession when you insist on continuing to practice and don't realize that as the world is changing, as technology is changing, you have to continue to upskill, reskill, unlearn, relearn. And as well, I won't talk too much, but for those of you that know me, I don't know who is on, you know that, and who is going to listen to this after, you know, I'm an advocate of this. The only reason you can remain relevant in your profession is by upskilling. And I use an example from the medical field, but it's also even more so for us here, because in our own field, we're seeing a lot of things changing in terms of society, in terms of media, in terms of technology, AI challenges, social media risk, and all of that. Your ability to understand the breadth of what's going on depends a lot on how you upskill yourself. So anyways, so let's start from the basics. What's the definition of strategic communication? This is the textbook definition of strategic communication that was brought about by some scholars called Hallahan, Holzhausen, Van Ruler, a number of them. And this was in 2007. And this is about the time the practice of strategic communications as a concept became a thing. And they describe strategic communication as the purposeful use of communication by an organization to fulfill its mission. And it involves identifying key concepts, including audience analysis, goal setting, and message strategy. And so it's saying that it's about how an organization uses communication intentionally, not just as something that they're just doing like, oh, tick the box, or it doesn't matter how I do it, but they're actually intentionally working through communications. And again, like I said, this is not a buzzword. This is something that is actually, really, really real. And I'll show you why I say this. Now, the spectrum of communications over the years is twofold. There is internal communications and there's external. And I had shared this particular slide, I had shared it in some of my earlier in a video that I did before. But if you are watching this, either you're watching it live or you're going to watch this later on, what I will say to you is that where do you fit in this space, in this internal communication space? I mean, in this spectrum of communication. When you say spectrum, what I mean is that it's very wide. Now, you see this, what is sad about this, and which is why on our platforms at SA&A, we're talking a lot about this, because I see that a lot of people don't know, even employers, they don't know that there's a spectrum of communication. That's why they want to, hire somebody. They will go and hire someone that is not even suited for the job at all, because they believe that, excuse me, is it not the same thing? They should all be able to do it. I mean, internal communications is so different from external communication. In fact, I've hardly ever seen somebody who is very, very good at both internal and external at the same time. Most of the people that are very, very good in internal communications, because it's something that is so technical, they are hardly, you can never ever find them to be as good on the external side. The same way the other way around. And in this profession, I think it's important, particularly if you are doing corporate communications, institutional communication, or you're working in public sector, big organizations. This distinction is important for you to know. If you are working for small, businesses and all that, all these things may not really, really matter, because by and large, maybe it's only one type of communications that you're doing. You just do maybe PR, publicity, digital marketing, that kind of thing. Even in tech startups, depending on how big the startup is, you need to know a lot of these things, because in fact, a lot of the tech startups, there are serious problems in internal communication. There is culture issue. There is leadership communication is an issue. For some of them, employer engagement is an issue. Transformation and change management is behavioral change, even particularly from the leaders, is an issue. So, and then of course, on the external side, I'll say for startups, many of them don't manage issues and crisis management very well. So if you are working for a company that has a board, in fact, that's the way I should put it, whether it is NGO board or it is government board, there's a board, you have governance structures in place. All of what we are saying here is very relevant for you, even if it is a church. So long as you have a board, whether board of trustees, board of directors, whatever, all of this is important. Now, even if you are working for a company that doesn't have a board, a lot of these things are still important, but I'm saying it is even more so for those ones. Why? Because you are a business that people can lay hands on. There are rules and regulations governing you. You're probably regulated by government or regulated by something, or there are people you are answerable to. So everything that we're saying here matters. So there's a spectrum. So the question I will ask you, and I would like you to think about this, and then when we get to Q&A, you can answer. Where in the spectrum of communications do you lie? Remember, our title today is How to Excel and Grow in the Practice of Strategic Communication. So if you don't even know that there's a spectrum, how do you know where you fit? Remember the example I gave initially about medical field and about doctors. I mean, when you look at doctors, all of them say they want to be doctors, but think about it. There must have been some internal reflection before somebody now says, I want to be a doctor, but I want to specialize as a gynecologist, or I want to be a pediatrician, or I want to be a psychiatrist, or I want to be this or that. So, or maybe those ones that deal with cancer, what they call them, it's an oncologist or something, I can't remember. But so there has to be a reflection. So even though you will go through the whole medical school and medical training, you've said to yourself that this is where you want to specialize in. So you will have your generalist medical school training, and then you build on it. The same thing with law. Everybody goes through law. I did 2 or 3 years in my university days with law students, so I know a lot of their courses, torts, contracts, so many things. Jurisprudence, the ones they do in year 2, the ones they do in year 3, all of them do it together. In fact, as far as I know, I think they have some elective courses like maybe family law, but there are the common ones in year 2. They're all doing the same courses. I think year 3 too. Law of tort, everybody will do. Law of contract, everybody will do. Jurisprudence, everybody will do it. But by the time I think they get to year 4, you have some electives, but they still have their standard courses. In law school, I don't know much about what they do in law school. But after law school, people now start specializing. Some go into corporate law, some go into tax law, some go into commercial law, some go into family law, which is divorce and all those issues. Some people read estates, private estates. So, and once you enter that trajectory of specialism, you must now, as in you have to enter it well, because that's the only way you can get mastery. But you see, those other professions are different in that they provided the generalism for them in school. In our own case, and of course, those professions are more rigid because there's a lot of, there's just a whole lot more structured for many reasons. In our own case, you may not have studied communications, but you are coming into practice. So if you didn't study communications, you are coming into practice. You want to continue without ever getting any other specialism. Whereas the tax lawyer, is it possible for you to be a tax lawyer you're not reading? Is it possible for you to be a commercial lawyer? You don't know you are not reading commercial law. You're not reading books about commercial law. You are waiting for only what you will get in practice area. So this is the journey that I think we as if you're a communications person and you want to be able to sit, I always hear people say they want to sit at the table. Sit at the table with these same lawyers, with people who have gone through after school, they are still reading. Meanwhile, you are not, after school, you are not read. You can't get a seat at that table. I'm sorry, you don't even belong at that table. You know what I mean? You can't even if they invite you, I don't know the value you are going to bring. Because these people are upskilling constantly. In fact, the standard I set for myself in communications, I look at other professions, which is why you hear me comparing. I benchmark with other professions. I don't benchmark with comms. I don't benchmark. I want to see because at the end of the day, strategic communications, we are supposed to help other businesses. So it's important for me. So this is the spectrum. So based on this spectrum, you then decide where do you want to fit in. And for somebody like me, I will say I fit in mostly in each. For me, so if we look at everything on the internal and external communication side, because I've been in this profession for a very long time, I think I've done almost everything here. In fact, let me not be humble. I have actually. The only thing I will say that I probably may not have done on the internal communication side to a lot of to a high level is probably culture communications. Although I have, that's not really true actually. I've actually done culture communications. Anyway, let's just say that in fact everything here I've done it. So and if I've left out anything from this spectrum, please let me know, because again I had to rack my brain is what I remember, then I stopped, if there's anything I've left out, and if anything sounds strange or feels strange, you want me to expatiate on it more, I'm staying on the slide so that you can look at it well enough, and then just write it in the comments, and then I'll ask, I'll take your questions when the time comes. So if you are in digital marketing, you are in number 7 under external communication. So you're under the marketing communication space. If you are a corporate comms person, everything here applies to you. And I would expect you to be doing something in everything from number 1 to 12 on external communications. If at all you're not doing anything on internal communications, I would be assuming that it's because your organization is a small organization, or maybe you are a one-man team, that's why you can't do it. But you really need, at worst case scenario, you should be doing something about leadership communication or employer engagement. Now, what am I trying to get across in this slide? Communications is wide, very wide. So don't be too quick to specialize. You need to understand what is going on in the spectrum before you can be successful in the specialist area. Remember again, the example I gave of the medical doctors, of the lawyers, and even accountants as well, because they go through the same thing. They go to school, do the accounting. After they do ICANN, they do ACCA, and then everybody specializes in the area that they want to. You're either going into corporate accounts, or you're going to audits. There's so many things. Some of them go into economics, they go into commercial, they go into different spaces. But then the foundational general knowledge is there. So I would advise, if you're somebody that you are planning to have a career, a full-grown career in strategic communications, working for corporates or organizations or institutions or NGOs, any organization that is big or public sector, try to make yourself familiar with all this entire spectrum. Then you decide the one that you are going to specialize in. Why do I say this? Because your ability to do any of these ones well, it depends on your knowledge of what the other places. Like, if you don't know much about the media, like I say, a lot of people, some people on social media, some digital marketers in fact, or people handling social media accounts, because they do not understand issues and crisis management, they just post anything that gets people in trouble. And they don't understand the risk. So they post certain things and they create a lot of problems for themselves. I don't want to talk about the case going on in Nigeria now about people that use their own hand to go and post what should not have been posted. And these are the things we're saying. It's when you don't understand risk. That's why you do something like that. And you know that at the end, anyway, let me just leave it. So that's that. So I'm not going to go into this specialism. If you have any question, ask me. Then let me move to the next slide. So now, again, on the theme of how do you excel and grow? And, I'm just saying all of this to jog our memories, because I'm expecting that questions will come that will give me the opportunity to really answer, specific questions. So this is just like a framing. Don't look at it as I am going to tell you everything that you need to excel and grow. It's not possible for me to say it until I understand your context. But what I can share is the things that I believe that work on a general level based on what I've seen in my own life, what I've seen in my career, and other people's own as well. So I think in terms of things that would help you, if you say you want to be a communications practitioner full-time, I mean, I have been in communications now. This is all I've done all my life, like full-time. My side, I don't even have side gig of like I'm selling skincare or I am doing clothes. As in, my side gig is comms. Do you understand? So I'm fully immersed in the profession. I don't have any side gig in another area. Are you understanding me? Anything that is side gig in comms. It's not side gig in beauty, lifestyle, side gig in something else. So I think I'm what's the word? I'm qualified to at least give a view on some of these things. So first of all, one of the things you have to understand the basic concepts and principles. You see all those things I shared in the last slide there. They all have concepts, they have principles. And you see, my problem is that many times I'm like, how do I share? Because if I tell you, you may see a lot of things that I share and we share at SA&A on social media. Do you know that if I tell you that we have not shared up to 101% of the knowledge that we have about these areas. It's not possible, because for me to share everything that I know, the concepts and the principles about these things, that means I will not do any other thing with my life than to be creating content on these things. And What I'm saying is, for instance, because I write frameworks, we write frameworks for organizations. And sometimes you have to write these things specifically, procedures, standards, protocols, guidelines. You think it is not a big deal until somebody tells you, come and develop a leadership communication strategy for my company. A boss has just taken over maybe one public sector organization, or maybe the governor of Lagos State, and they tell you to come up with a communication strategy for him to communicate to all civil servants in Lagos State. That's where you will now know the wheat from the chaff will be separated. Because if you don't have framework to know how you should start such a job. Why am I saying this? A lot of communications professionals come to me when they start their new jobs, and the first thing, because most of the organizations you work for, they don't even tell you what you're supposed to be doing. As in, many people, they don't, when they start their work, they are really like, essay, what should I do? How do I start? So at the end of the day, some of them, maybe if they've attended my courses, I'll just say, just use the strategic communications framework, because we teach that on the course. But if you have not, I just send you my videos, because where do I start from? Because I cannot just tell you, just go in and just be doing video, just be posting. That's tactical. You will not have any impact. The only way I can tell you is to tell you to be strategic about the communication, but you have to understand the framework first. You have to understand how it works. And you have to understand the value and the role and how to build things, how to come up with a structure. I mean, this thing is so specific and technical. I will share something. There are 2 pieces of work that we're working on right now in our consulting arm. Do you know that because strategic communications, the way it is, even when I have 2 clients from the same industry giving me a similar brief, not the same, but a bit similar, I have never been able to repeat the same framework for another client. Why? Because the context is different, their needs are different, the starting point is different. For some people, if they're already advanced, there's some certain things they already have, then I have to build on top of what they have. If the person doesn't have anything, then I'm starting from scratch. It's not the same. So it would be stupid of me to go and give them copy and paste from something of somebody who already had something. Building from scratch is not the same as building midway or repairing what is broken. Do you understand what I'm saying? But when you don't understand the framework, you can't build from scratch. You can't repair what is broken. You can't solve any problems. All you can just do is look busy, create activities and look busy, which is what a lot of us are doing. So anyway, so my message to you on this slide is know your profession. Know it. Know it very well. And again, remember the caveat I'm saying. If you are working for a small company, one-man business, one-man show, it may not matter. But God forbid you go and carry jobs. You apply, and you go and apply for a big organization, as in everything will open. Oh. Because in those jobs, if you don't have the framework, it shows. The unfortunate part about my work is that I'm always careful about the examples that I share, because if not, I will share what I'm not supposed to share. But if I could share some of the examples that I am aware of, or the kind of problems and challenges that communications people who are not prepared get into, it's easy. For me, I would say one thing that has really helped me is understanding the basic concepts and principles. It has also helped me to learn the theory and the practice. Yes, I didn't know it says preach. I know. Thank you. Yes, I'm preaching today. It has also taught me to learn the theory and the practice. To be honest, that has helped me more than anything, because, like I said, I'm a consultant. We consult for people from different persuasions, different sectors. And like I said, it's like a medical doctor. If you don't know your onions, patients are different. You cannot say because somebody came into your office with my fever, you treated him with this and it worked for him or her, then you use it for another patient. You will kill people. Do you understand? One day you end up in jail. We're going to arrest you because you don't know what you're doing. So, but if you understand the practice of the profession, you understand, you know the questions to ask that patient. Okay, when did the fever start? We're going to send you for this test. You know how to interpret the results when they come. That's what we are talking about. And let me tell you, the time of winging it and being flash in the pan and outward packaging and inside zero content is gone, because everybody is upping their game big time. Everybody's doing it. So you have to learn the theory and then apply it in your practice. So number 3, you need to know the spectrum of your field. And that's what we've talked about. Know the spectrum. I cannot overemphasize this. Why? Because if you know the spectrum, like me now, there are certain things I'll be involved with. And there are a lot of things I do. I advise, I give people advice, pro bono, that kind of stuff. I will tell them, they'll say, Shola, come and do that. I'll say, no, I can't do this for you, but I will tell you who can. Because I know, do you understand? I know the profession, and I know when I need, even me, if I'm working on something, I know, and people like Adedoyin who have worked with me in my consulting space and we've partnered on several things, she knows this is how I work. I am very quick to bring people to come and support me on projects because I know what my specialism is, and I know the point, the areas in which I will be very strong, and the areas where I would need people to help me, to support me. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you have to know that spectrum. So if I'm dealing with something and I quickly tell people, I say, you need to get a media specialist. I never ever present myself as a media specialist. I'm not a charlatan. I don't present myself as what I'm not. I'm a communications generalist. I have specialism in crisis and issues management, reputation, brand management. Yes, I'm a master in those areas. I am not a master in media, but I am a media generalist. I can develop a media strategy for you. But if you need a media specialist is someone that has not done anything but media relations all their entire life. That's not me. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, and that is how people respect you, because what you now say that you are strong in, you are so strong in it. But it takes time. So, number 4, determine what your ultimate career goals are. This is very, very important. Remember the analogy I gave at the beginning about medical doctors. You know, all those people that decided to be pediatrician or gynecologist, they decided early. The earlier you decide, the better for you. I see a lot of people, you are wavering, you are this today, you are this tomorrow. You're just going with the wind. I mean, please stay in one place now. Is it so hard to determine who you want to be? Is it an identity crisis issue? I don't see medical doctors saying I was pediatrician today and tomorrow I'm gynecologist, jumping. You want anyone that looks like is looking, okay, everybody's calling themselves strategic communication now. So I everybody's calling them this one tomorrow. Stay one place. Do you understand? So okay, Abiodun, I know you will ask me that question, but let me finish. After I'll take your question. So so number 5, get your generalist skills. This one is very important. One feedback I've noticed about the generations coming up is that you people are too quick to specialize, and it's a big risk. I thank God that some people have started transitioning into main communications, because by the time you over specialize in digital marketing, if by the time the world changes or AI, I don't understand what is your fallback. I don't get it. So try to at least segue into main communications for a while. Try to understand that big picture so that that digital marketing thing will not leave you. But I don't know. So well, and even if that's what your plan, I hope consider it very well. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but I'm just saying I don't know why people are specializing so early into their careers. Or maybe it's the opportunities that have come, because I know these days everybody wants, let them just handle my social media and everything. But if you're somebody that you want to do more in life, or I'm not saying you want to do more, or you want a different path for yourself, because for me, I'm like, anyone is fine. You have to think about what are the skills that I need to have to become a leader if I am going to run my own firm in future, or if I'm going to expect that other people would ask me to run theirs for them. So if you over specialize in one area too early, you narrow your options, is all I'm saying. And you need to think about that. So while there is still time, you can imagine me, somebody like me now saying I want to change career. Is that one not confusion? You get to a stage where you can't change too much. You know what I mean? So before you get to my age and my stage in life, you need to be able to answer that number 4 pretty well. So number 5, so I've said get your generalist skills, choose your area of specialism. Then number 6, determine, this number 6 is very important. You know, we're talking about things to excel and grow. Determine the sector you want to work in and begin to build expertise in that area. Why is it important? First of all, because I've noticed in the com space, there's a whole community of people in NGO, non-profits, development state. Look, if that is not your plan for the future, please don't spend 10 years in the development space, because once your CV is showing 10 years in development space, let me not say you cannot, it will be very difficult for you to transition into corporates, because everybody, when they see your I mean, if I'm hiring for a bank, a comms person for a bank or an insurance company or a pension fund or any of those kind of things, and I see that all you've done is foundation work, hey, I will not shortlist that CV. I'm sorry. It's not foundation we're doing here now. We're a commercial enterprise. I want somebody who understands strategic communications in the context of commercial. Now, I've had people say, oh, you can do strategic communication in any sector. In principle, yes. In principle, yes. If you understand the strategic communication framework, you should be able to move across sectors. But if most times when people are resourcing into a corporate communications role, they want somebody who understands the technical communications work, as well as has the experience. Why I understand this very well is I worked in the energy sector for 22 years. Till today, they still call me, and they will until Jesus comes, they will call me. Why? Because I just know things. I understand the sector. In fact, I tried when we started off SA&A, I wanted to make a clean break from the sector, which is why you never see me post about my former life. I hardly ever talk about it because I wanted to make a clean break. But those people, they know green let me rest too. Because they know that Shola knows. Shola understands. Shola knows. You start a conversation with me. I'm finishing it for you. Before you say, okay, so is it this one? Hey, is it the regulator? Is it this one? Yeah, because I lived it. So if they are looking for people with a particular expertise, that's why you find out, for instance, if you notice, I want you to start observing after this now. A lot of comms people, you notice that they either have experience in fast-moving consumer goods, so they're either in the retail industry, or that's in every job they have, or they are moving from one bank to the other, one financial thing to the other, hardly before you see people cross it. It happens, but it's rare. It's rare in comms, particularly corporate communications job is rare. So choose that sector. There's nothing wrong with NGO. It's a perfect, wonderful sector. NGO, you can transition to government, you can transition to public policy, institutional, international organizations, yes. But don't tell me that you are planning to come into corporate and then you are tabernacling in NGO more than 8 years. That's not a good plan. You have already messed up that CV for that vision, except for divine intervention, which is also possible at any point in time. So, next slide. How to grow. This is my last slide, by the way, because I'm just really talking, high level stuff. So how to grow in the practice. Talk about how to excel. I'm just giving you tips and principles because this is all about how do we set ourselves up for success, in the long term. And, so you make the right choices, you do the right things, and then you can then grow as you come along. So number one, you need to be able to learn and apply the strategic communications framework. I've been using that term. It's a real framework. It exists. It is a framework that forces you to take a step-by-step approach to how you do your communications. And I've heard some people say, like I teach it in class, takes a lot of time. The strategic communications course is because I really struggle for time. I always want to have a very tight moderator because the time is not enough, to be honest. If I had my way, I would prefer that people take that strategic comms on the play on demand, where you can spend 6 weeks on the content. In fact, if you're a beginner and you really need hand holding, I will advise you do that one on play and demand, because me and you can be talking every day for 6 weeks, and I'm talking to the people who are currently enrolled, because that one day is not enough, but we have to do the best that we can. But then we have possession coachings and all of that. So it's better for people who just want to get it on the fly and go, have the opportunity of talking with other people within the profession, and which is also good, I guess, so we make the best of the day. But there's a lot. We have to really focus on that strategic comms framework. And we introduce it to them. We send them away with handouts. And the whole essence of that framework is that whenever anybody comes to you after that to say, develop a communication strategy, you know the questions to ask. That's what is in the framework. And I've had some people attend the course. After the course, they now come and be like, oh, my boss told me to do this thing, and how should I start? Should I use the framework? I'll be like, you're still asking. That's why it's there. It's so that you don't have to start thinking. And for me, many times, I give God the glory for my life, but if you see me in meetings with business leaders, I come across as very intelligent too. Adedoyin, as if you are in doubt, ask Adedoyin, who has been in sessions with me. After this session, go ask Adedoyin that is what SA said, is it true? But it's not that I'm that intelligent. It's just that I'm using framework. It's in my brain. So I know the questions to ask you. So, man, see me in meetings, man, I'm fly, man. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't, as in, you'll be mesmerized, because I don't have to start thinking. I know the questions to ask. Okay, what are we trying to achieve? What does success look like? Who are we targeting? What do we know about them? You know what I'm saying? I just, yes, Annabelle, thank you. So I know what to ask. And that's what that framework tells you, step by step by step. I don't see any path to mastery. To be honest, it's helped me as a consultant, because, and you see why I am so confident in the way I speak now is because I've tested this framework in public sector, Tested it in political sector, as in pro bono. I don't do S&A, we don't do political whatever. We don't do political work. But as SA, myself, personal brand, sometimes I get called into some of this conversation. I have used the framework for political matters and delivered results. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when I'm talking about the framework, I'm not being modest and saying maybe if you use it, I'm telling you it will. If you use it and you use it consistently. And apart from that, even many of people that have attended the courses, I have, just like, again, I cannot be calling people's name. I don't do that. I have to, I'm a senior citizen. I have to be responsible with myself. I cannot be name calling people on social media. So there are people who have taken my courses, and they've done frameworks and strategies and come back and written and said, I did this strategy, I presented it to my bosses, there was no, everybody took it. In fact, somebody who even attended one of my courses just on the fly, she came and she told me, that the last meeting she attended, her team members were asking her, what is going on? You have changed, So this is the feedback. Like, the reason why I keep doing this is the feedback I get from people, and I really give God the glory. Because if there was no feedback, people were not telling me that Shola is, I will go and pack my load and go to my house. But it's the feedback we are getting that makes us be like, okay. Because if something is working for me and it's also working for others, then there is something there. It's not just that, do you understand what I'm saying? It's something that so it's a replicable, and that's what frameworks are. They are replicable because they are time tested. So people can use it in different contexts. So please understand that framework, learn that framework. Number 2, you also need to know the stakeholder management framework and audience segmentation framework. That one is you can find the stakeholder management frameworks. You Google it on internet. Audience segmentation, you can also Google. The only one you're not likely to find on the internet is strategic communication framework. I'm not sure I've seen it anywhere, at least in one place, even if it's there, but you can try and Google. But these are these things we use. And people in marketing, I think, will understand that audience segmentation part. But the reason why the stakeholder management one, I emphasize more the stakeholder management one in the strategic communications course, because I believe most people, if you are marketing, most people should know that you have to segment your audience, you profile your audience, you target. If you're in comms and you don't know that, then there's a problem. I think the one that most people ignore is that stakeholder management framework. So, for instance, in the airline imbroglio that happened, that kept Nigerians, that held us all captive over the last 24 hours, there were a lot of stakeholders in that space. There was the impacted person, there were the air hostesses, there was the airline operators of Nigeria, there was the minister of aviation, there were the online army, there were the political supporters, there were the K1 supporters. Oh Lord, so if you want to do an issues management around that, you have to know how to count all those stakeholders. And that's why, whereas if you're not a strategic communication person, you will say they're not important. They're just talking nonsense on social media. Whereas, see how those people talking nonsense on social media eventually force the hand of the conversation. That is what strategic communications teaches you. You don't ignore anything. You watch and you observe. So that's that. Number 3, you have to become more strategic. Like I was saying, sometimes some people attend my courses and after they now come back and they'll say, hey, is it every time I must be using the strategic communications framework? I'm like, That's like a doctor saying, is it every time he must wear gloves before he gives patients injection? Or is it every time he must use a new needle before they give patients injection? Why can't I use the same needle I used before? It's about what kind of practitioner do you want to be? If you want to be more effective, you want to be more professional, you want to be more accurate, and you want your results to be more tangible, I will expect that it should not be a problem for you. And here is the thing. Just like I like to give the example, I like to use analogy, like a chef. If you go to chef school and they start teaching you, see the way they slice things. It's not the first day you carry the knife that you'll be able to slice it like the chef that has 3 Michelin star. But if you don't start learning to slice that chef way, you can never become good in that way of slicing. You say the wahala is, but let me continue slicing my hair now. Okay, it's okay. Then don't expect to be given a Michelin star, because to get a Michelin star, you have to be able to slice in that chef way. So for me, for me now, I apply the strategic communication framework intuitively. I don't need to reference the book, but there were many times I needed to do that. But how many years in now? I think about 15 years I've been introduced to that, because 2008 was when I attended the classroom training where I was taught. So it's more than that, actually. So now it's intuitive for me. And I've even modified, I've adapted. So even the audience segmentation, I just created that recently, sort of like adapt it. And I think I will introduce it in this next class coming up, and also add it into the marketing communications class. But we really focus on the stakeholder management most of the time. So number 4, derive your plans from a strategy. Now, this one is very important. Many of us do not know that there is a difference between communication strategy and communications plan. Ideally, best practice, you're supposed to start off with strategy, because strategy answers your why. You see, the reason why many of you do communications campaign 1 year, and after your bosses don't fund it the year after, is because you are too tactical. You are overtly tactical. The questions you should have asked, you did not ask the question. The answers you should have gotten, you did not source the answers. So at the end of the day, you just did work. There was no connection to the business. There was no connection to the organization. There was no way to measure impact at the end of the day. So people are like, man, I don't have that kind of money to throw away again. So nobody's going to fund you. So for me, come up with the strategy, even if it's a one-liner, it's a half page. Why are we doing this? What are we trying to achieve? What does success? At least those basic questions before you now start saying, this is what you are going to do. And you see that this used to happen when I was working as a comms person in my 9 to 5 life then, or my paid employment life. People will come to you and then they will say, yes, exactly, Rachel, plans always come after strategy. People come to me and be like, oh, we want to do a newsletter. We want to do something in the newspaper. As in, they will come and tell you what they want to do. In fact, when I became comms manager in that my former place of work, that was the first thing I stopped. I said, nobody should come to us and tell us this is what you want to do. If you already know what you want to do, then why are you coming to us? Go ahead and do it. Go to the media. You're not telling us why. You're not telling us what you want to achieve. You're not telling us what success, what is it? What are we trying to achieve? You're already telling me, no, let's go to Arise. And go now. Why are you coming to me? Is that, do I look like Arise? Go to Arise by yourself. So you don't come to me and come and tell me that this is what you want to do, that you've already come up with programs. I'm not a mailman, I'm sorry. Are you looking for a strategist, or you are looking for an implementer? So that's it. So that was as a comms manager, that was the first thing I stopped. So people started learning. If you want Shola's team to support you on anything, you come and engage them early. That's how we do it, man. Because you're not going to tarnish my professional responsibility reputation. If it's law, if you are handling a deal, will you not call the lawyers from the beginning? Is it after you signed the deal that you call your lawyer? HR too, before you set up a project, don't you call them in from the beginning and say, look, well, this is the project we're going to do. Oh yeah, HR, how many, this is how much we have, and we need this kind of skills. How many people can we hire? What is the market cost of this kind of resources at this time? Will you not call them in? Then it's me comes after you have done everything. You're now calling me later, man. Yes, so you know, said go to Arise. Yes, now go yourself. You know the way now. So although, again, let me put a caveat there. I had gotten to some level of seniority before I was able to do that. But you get what I'm saying. So even if you're not in that level of seniority, let them know that this is not the way. But you yourself, if you don't know that there's dreams in strategy and plan, then you cannot tell people, you can't help them. You will continue to go in that way. But I'm just showing all of this to show why we are limited in the things that we do. Having said that, if you're at entry level, you are in that situation, whatever they're telling you to do, just know it's okay. Continue. We all started out like that. But I wish in my earlier years, I had people tell me, all what I'm sharing is things that I had to learn by myself. In fact, everything I've shared to you today is like 20 years of experience or 25 of lived experience. So imagine if somebody sat me down to be telling me all these things when I was in my 20s. Do you understand? Man, it would have been like heaven. You know what I mean? So that's it. So so focus on outcomes, not activities. That's really, 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 really important. That's an important part to grow in the practice of strategic communication. Because you see why this is so important. Like for me, and this is a big mental shift that I think we as PR practitioners, comms practitioners need to make. I think many of us are very activity driven. So we're like, oh yeah, we had this event, we did this campaign, there were so many engagements, we got this influencer to come, we got good now. You've done all of that. At the end of the day, maybe the person was expecting, the business was expecting, or the organization was expecting some tangible outcomes. But because you did not discuss it, you didn't spend so much time on it. At the end of the day, the person says that they did an event. Maybe there was a lot of buzz on social media. Maybe there was some buzz in newspaper. But they didn't quite achieve. They were hoping that after that, their brand will become like maybe the leading brand, or there will be people that will download their app or whatever. And the downloads didn't happen. Why? Because if you had agreed from the beginning that a critical success factor for this event was that at the end of the day, they are going to download our app, you will have wrapped your entire communication strategy around that rather than focusing on influencer. It's possible you call influencer and at the end of the day, nobody download your app, not even maybe 5 people download. So that's what does success look like? That question, you have to answer it from the beginning. In fact, for me, that's how I know. If I want to say 2 or 3 things that I know that makes me determine whether you are a strategic communicator or a tactical one, is if you are focused on outcomes rather than activities. And I mean, even when in my paid employment life, I remember that when I was comms manager, people would tell me, but we spent a lot of time doing that. I said, please. I said, you want to be rewarded, you want me to clap for you because of effort. I said, please show me in the market. Can you please point me to one market where they sell effort so that I can at least appreciate the value of effort? Please show me the market. They're all looking at me. Every market sells finished products. Do you understand? Tangible things. So don't tell me as a comms person, you are telling me that efforts, activities, not started. And now, particularly when people are very, the budget is a big issue. You have to make sure that at the end of the day, whoever brought out that money, either it is sponsor, project, whoever, they are like, man, this was money well spent. And the next time you come, they're even, as you're asking for one, they're giving you two. That is my goal as a consultant. I always make sure it's a very important thing for me, even as a consultant, that our clients are so satisfied that if ever, as in, they will be looking for opportunity to, as in, they will be looking for opportunity to work with us again. As in, they will create, even when there's no opportunity, there's no job, they will create opportunity just to bring SA&A. And to a very large extent, we've seen that happen. Because the value of what we do will not be in doubt. Why? Because if I cannot draw a straight line between what we will do and the outcomes in line with what the business or organization wants, I will not do it. I will tell them, I said, we can't achieve this thing. I remember when somebody was calling me into a political communications conversation, a state government, blah, blah, blah. Again, this is as SA, not as SA&A. And they wanted me to help to come and advise, set up their comms and, crisis issues and all of that. And I looked at the scenario on ground. I told them, I said, you people can't win this thing. I said, it's already messed up. You guys made a lot of mistakes. There were opportunities when you should have seized on it. You did not at the time. And they were like, Shola, I told them, I said, you people can do anything you like. That anybody that tells you now that this will make a change just wants to take your money off you. And I gave them that view. Of course, it's a no-brainer anyway. 3 months down the line, it has turned out exactly as I said. Thank God I didn't, because they're telling me I should come late. I said, I don't even do that. But I told them I'm not even pro bono, I'm not going to do virtual, I'm not going to do, because I could see that, there wasn't a pathway. So that's how I operate. I focus on outcome. So I could have told them, yes, and they would have brought out that money. I could have told them, oh, yes, let's just be doing, let's post, let's create. Meanwhile, I know that what they wanted to achieve, communications alone cannot achieve it, and the ship has sailed. So you earn more respect for your brand that way. Again, I digress. That's my own personal story. So number 6, learn to measure your impact. That one we'll teach in the course. I can't go too much into that. There's we have our own approach for how we think measurement should be approached. It's different from what most people advocate, but that we go into it in class. So number 7, you want to grow your practice of strategy. Of course, now come and enroll for a course on SA&A. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for is the question. And like I said earlier, there's the option to join us online. August 28th is the next course that is coming up, and we're enrolling at the moment. Or you can do the 24/7. Again, I say, if you are somebody that you want hand holding, you want me to be going back and forth. It's just that, like I said, the people that I enrolled on learn on our e-learning platform, you will see the way we go back and forth. Some of them I'm talking to them on email, some of them is on WhatsApp. In fact, there's someone that is enrolled right now. She's developing a comms plan. I've told her when she develops it she's going to walk through it with the course. and I'm going to be giving her real-time feedback, and she's going to be able to, within 6 weeks, she's going to have developed a comp strategy for her company. So that's the way we work. But like I said, I don't like talking about these things out there because I'm like, well, it is what it is. But if you want to grow, so for me, even if you don't want to attend SA and A courses, we have a lot of free content available, YouTube, everything, and all of that. And there are other places. But get the learning is what we are saying. Don't operate on whatever. You see me. Do you know that apart from all that, I'm still considering some certifications as I'm talking to you. I'm still doing them because at the end of the day, I'm a knowledge entrepreneur, and I cannot imagine if I was marketing knowledge based on what they taught me. In fact, do you know one thing? I found out that whenever I look at like there's a piece of work I'm doing. I wrote a framework, some pages 2 weeks ago. I looked at it this week and I saw something. I was like, Shola, why did you write it like this? Why? Because the world is changing. So I'm adding to my knowledge daily on crisis management, on issues management, on reputation, on brand. I'm adding to it. I'm growing. So anyway, that's the last slide that I have for you today. Thank you very much for being a very captive audience. I've talked longer than I wanted to. So questions, please, before we bring this to an end. Please, questions. If you have questions, I hope I've not missed any questions, because this thing has a way of not showing question until I'm saying okay. So yeah, there were comments here. Okay, so let me see. So first one, NGO one. Yeah, so NGO, I don't know. NGO has its anyway. I won't say anything. I think it's you. If you're working in NGO, you really need to make sure that that's where you want to be. So I think there was a question from. Let me just go up. Yes. So Rachel said, yes, plans always comes always after strategy. That's true. Abayomi also talked about strategic communications framework. Yes. And then the comments from Annabelle as well. Thank you all for joining and commenting. So let me answer Abiodun's question. Abiodun, are you still on? So Abiodun said that he wants to get the insights on the recent controversy involving airline brands and the apparent lack of effective internal communications and crisis management dealing with disruptive customers. What key lessons can brand owners learn from this incident, particularly for a comms perspective? I think, first of all, I think there's a training element that just needs to happen, both aviation authorities and all of that. And in terms of handling some of these things, and then protocol, maybe trainings and simulations. So there is training that needs to happen within the airlines, and then with the airlines and the airport authorities as well. And it's a simulation thing. So they actually need to have to do a simulation, training simulation, where they will say, do simulation of disruptive customer, and then let them know this is what you can do to restrain or to whatever for each scenario. If the person is violent, if the person is this. I mean, some people, I hear that there is a difference between in-flight protocol where safety is paramount and when you are on ground. So all those things somebody needs to take. First of all, they first need to go into class again and be taught all these things afresh. What the law says, what the boundaries of their responsibilities are, and then they then need to have simulation training with the airport officials also in whatever. In a way, I mean, if they seize the moment, the Minister of Aviation, I think they can do a lot that will be helpful for everybody. I also think, to be honest, that I think the airport authorities need to run an internal communications campaign about disruption within the airport, where they are on the screens, they're saying, please be whatever. You know how some companies, when you get to the checkpoint, they will say, we do not tolerate, don't be abusive to our staff, don't raise your voice. I think they need to start doing that a little bit as well. So they should look at the different, so some should be targeted at the people flying, maybe right from inside the, what's that word? Where you are, what's the word, when you when you get into the airport, departure lounge and all of that. And then some also for once you are inside the flight, really, I don't think there's anything new you add other than what you've said. Maybe they should include it into the safety briefing, but that would be a little bit, that may not go down well. That may look very antagonistic. But I think some work just needs to be done in that space. I think I must say though that I'm impressed by the PR, the person managing the aviation, I don't the guy that, the PR person who is very, very active on Twitter, and he has been engaging on this, you know, he's actually, he's providing answers. He even goes on Twitter space. And for me, I mean, you can have your differences of opinion and all of that, but I always commend, and I like it when I see professionals who are acting, particularly people in public sector, who recognize that they have a duty of care to the public to provide explanation. So you see him do that. Of course, you may disagree with his views here and there, but he engages, which for me is a good thing. So, and he doesn't engage in a antagonistic way. He engages well. So that's good. I'm always happy when I see people like that. So yes, question from, can you have Olasimba, I don't understand this. So can one have a work and tie it into strategic communications as a brand? I don't Can you please explain that question again? No, I am not understanding. Can somebody please help me understand that? Can you have a work and tie it into strategic communications? That work, I don't know. I'm sure there's a typo there. Can you repeat the question, Olasimba? So Annabelle, you said thank you for pouring yourself out for us. So may you suggest a book to read that covers comes, a must have and a read? I don't know. Maybe Adedoyin can help us. Anybody who can. I don't really know a book that will say that covers everything. I know that there are some books that are online, but my problem with some of the books that I've seen is that I don't know if they are written for a Western audience, and I'm not so sure. In fact, that was one of the reasons why I was motivated and led by God as well to start courses here, because I just felt that some of they were not very, they're not focused, they're not Africa, they're not centered on Africa, which our context is different. Like for them, a lot of the things that we have to do, even though our society, it's like their systems are more regulated. So a lot of what their practice is governed by the regulations, but we don't have those kind of regulations. So it's a bit different different for us. So that's the thing. So I'm sorry, there's no book that I can suggest, but on the fly right now. But I will, if you remind me after this, I'll probably go and check. There's a book that we use. Well, I'm hesitant to suggest. There's a book that we use for certification for our in my professional association, international association, for IABC, for business communications, IABC. We used it for the certification. It's called Handbook on Communications or something like that. It's available on Amazon. But the reason why didn't suggest it is because, like I said, very Western focused, and it's good for that certification. I think for everyday stuff, I would rather, I mean, if I was going to write a book, I would write a book like the way my courses are. So practical book. I don't see anybody really breaking comes down into a practical how to book. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, if again back to the thing about me having the time, if I had the time, if all I did was convert my courses into a book, man, it would be an amazing book. You know what I mean? But I don't have the time to do that, because that's what we try to do with our courses. We try to make them practical and how to. It's like a manual. We make it very, very application friendly, and it's very, very it's written. We take the approach of, once you take this and you can use this to learn. It's like a recipe. You can use this to now cook your own stew. That's their approach. But some other people, I think, is narrative style they use. Adedoye also says that yes, a lot of the books they are from a Western context. That's really been the problem. So Olasimbo, he said, so if an organization takes a walkathon to aid brand visibility and promote fitness in an organization, can it be a strategic move for a brand? Now, the question is, who are you targeting? I like this kind of question, Olasimbo. So walkathon, that's it now. That's the activity-driven approach. They just come up and say, for me, who are you targeting? Brand visibility with who? Where are you working? Me, I don't work at all anywhere. So is it me you're targeting? I will not see you if you are workathoning, unless you are a fitness brand. So the point is just be roaming around aimlessly. I see people doing breast cancer work. I'm like, who are you people targeting? What's the point? if you know that all you are doing is just, it's a different thing. Okay, you are doing it because what you really have a passion in. It cannot be about brand visibility. So the only way you can think of making yourself visible is to be walking around aimlessly on the streets of Lagos. What's that? So as in, so the question is, who are you targeting? What's the objective? That's the question. And that's why I say strategic communications framework. Because if you know who you are targeting, then that then determines where what the messaging is, the platform and everything. You're working where? Is it as in, like me now, I live in an estate. How, if I'm your audience, you will never see, I don't know where you will see me. Do you understand? It's the same problem why for me, I don't advocate like TV placements, because TV, no matter how many times you run something on TV, it's only going to show for like how many seconds. And then the point is, it doesn't have a long shelf life. So a walkathon too is only going to be live for like the 2 hours you're out there. So except you're going to take video of the 2 hours and then be promoting. How many times do you tell us that you walked around Lagos that day? I beg you. That's what I'm saying. You see, I like this question you asked because it is a perfect example of activity-driven communication. And 85% of us out there are practicing that way. That's all we know. We come up with activities. And that's why I'm telling you, I can tell you, those people that you are saying did that walkathon, if they've done it already, I can assure you the manager will be dissatisfied after. His brand is still not visible. If you have done it already, I can bet it will not be visible. Because how does walkathon and brand, please explain to me. Now, let me share the example of SA&A. SA&A, we launched during the pandemic, and I give God the glory for everything I'm about to say. We launched during the pandemic. I don't even recall that I ever did any serious email. I mean, I can't even remember, you know, the way how I, like now I remember when I did some emails, maybe launching the courses. I remember when I did an email for my birthday last year. I don't remember the email or the post, social media post that I did to launch SA&A. I don't remember because it was not even, it was nothing to write home about. So we didn't do a physical launch. But immediately we just announced that, okay, we have started this thing. We then started pushing our content. And our brand became visible because I already had an audience of people who were already following me from my former career life and people who I now started interacting with on public relations and communication. So it's already, my niche audience is already there. So all I needed to do was begin to create content to that niche audience, which is why if you see me, I've never gone on TV. I've never gone on, because I already have my audience. So it's to be visible to the audience. So somebody telling me, oh, shall I go to the media? And somebody even sent me an email, we want to make your brand more visible. I was like, who told you that I'm looking for more visibility? We don't need to be a household name. We're a niche brand. We only need to be visible to the few people that are in need of strategic communications training and consulting services and are willing to, to pay a premium for it. Those are the people I need to target. So all our brand needs to be is to be present in the spaces where those corporate brands are. And by the grace of God, we're being there. We're not doing walkathon, neither are we doing anything. If we are doing any of those things, it's purely for our public good. It's not to make our brand visible. So these are the things. People say you want to make your brand visible, they call one influencer. Although for some people it works. Again, if you know that, for instance, there's some influencers you could actually call and they would help with making your brand more visible. If, for instance, you are involved in some, like all those, they use them for all those things, like all those immigration things and all of that. It helps because you are targeting mass market. So you use those mass market people. But then if you are a niche brand, you are wasting your time using mass market people. So that's the point. I hope that explains a little bit. So it's not that walkathon in itself is wrong, but honestly, brand visibility and walkathon. So I need to understand how you came out of all the spectrum of things you could do to make your brand visible is walkathon. Who are you going to say? Do you know that most people, like if you're targeting high net worth individual, you know their cars, they have tinted windows. They're on their iPad when they are driving. They're not going to see you people walking. They're not driving their own cars. Somebody is driving them. So who is your audience? But if your audience are people at the bus stop, then please, by all means, work. So let me see the other questions. Aisha says, this was, do you have any advice for young people starting off in the comms industry, NGO? I think the advice comes, I think, is to be very self-aware about, how the NGO sector is structured at the moment. My observation is that many NGOs do not really pay a lot of attention to comms. They are more concerned with the knowledge management, the program development, and all of that. If you are lucky to work in a place where they actually have value for comms and impact storytelling and all of that, then that's good. Many of the NGOs, from what I've seen, and if you're working an NGO that is different, please correct me. I'm looking for an NGO that I can use as a best case practice and say, if you work for this NGO, your communication and whatever will be higher. But all the stories I keep hearing doesn't show that. So for that reason, I'm not saying don't work there, but I'm saying understand the limitations. So for somebody, I would say, as much as you are growing there, join a professional association and be learning from people in corporate and other things, because I'm telling you, you will not learn the cutting edge pieces of the profession from working in the NGO. I will just, as in, I don't want to hide my mouth. I wanted to be political at first. I was like, Shola, no, you just have to tell you. I'm not saying don't work there, but I'm saying, because, and by the way, even people in corporate too, depending on the job you are doing, you may or may not learn a lot. But the good thing about corporates is that because they have to make money, do you understand? That then pushes them to do more. I mean, you learn more, and yeah, just put it to do more. Then again, issues and crisis management. NGOs, they also have a risk to fall into issues and crisis management, and then they don't have it. They don't train their staff for it. They don't prepare for crisis. So I would say that's another thing that you can go and learn externally. So as much as you can learn from outside of the NGO world, learn it. They also don't, my observation is NGOs too also don't work at promoting their brand. They just believe that, oh, we are doing good, therefore everybody will know about us, So I think there's a lot that you can bring into the practice from outside, but don't depend on that sector alone to grow you, is what I'm saying. But look at what people are doing in the corporate world. Just like as I am telling you that I look at what people are doing in other professions to benchmark my views about how I should operate in this profession. Also look across to what people, don't say because you're an NGO world it comes, you don't get involved in anything that other people, in fact, volunteer for work that is being done by people that are not in the NGO space, because you can then bring those best practices in. I would like to see NGOs upscale their practice of communications. Right now, I would say it's not at all where it should be at all, to be honest, in my view. And there's just too much. I don't think the NGO, and I'm making very broad statements here, they don't respect communications as a profession. They are beginning to realize that they need it, but that respect is not yet there. Because when you have that respect, as in that's when you now put investment, put money. We're not seeing it, but we're seeing it everywhere. Even church communications department is more developed than NGO. How can you explain that? The church is spending, the church is supposed to spend money on communications, but the NGO, so I don't get it. They would be joining communications job with knowledge management. I'm like, don't you people understand? You of all people should be the ones leading the way on communications, because you are involved in people's lives, and people's lives have stories, and you can only make influence when you can influence how people think. This should have been communications heaven, but I don't see that happening. So that's the advice. Stay there because it's good. You can also get a lot of opportunity there, but please make sure you are present in other spaces so that you carry what you are learning from other spaces. And just to give you a bit of comfort on that, even when we're setting up SA&A, I did model SA&A against other PR agencies. I modeled it against consulting firms. So because I wanted us to be seen, that was where I wanted us to be. So I didn't model us. And if you see the way we operate, we don't operate like all of the we're not an agency. I don't even use that word. You can never hear me talk about it. We're not an agency. We're a consulting firm. So we modeled ourselves against management consultancy, and that's how we operate. So, and that is how the industry has received us as well. So you can do that, and it has worked for us. To God be the glory. So do you understand? So don't restrict yourself to what is available within your sector. In fact, your ability to learn from other comms practices outside of your sector makes you not just a consummate professional, but also a very intelligent one. So that's the only advice. I hope that's a bit helpful. So, any more questions before I bring this to an end? Thank you everyone for the engagements. I don't see any more questions. If not, I'll bring this to an end. Let me just wait a little bit if there's anyone. But even if I miss your question, I'll run through the comments after the session and then I may respond to you. And please don't forget, if you want to join us in class, and then send me a message. Even if you're not joining any of the online courses or whatever, send me a message. Let me know what's going on. Is there, I can direct you to this and say, okay, watch this video. Let's have this conversation, and all of that. I always like to hear from you. I have a WhatsApp channel where you can always send a message and chat with me as well. You can see it if you go onto my website, or you message me via LinkedIn. If you want to join us in class also on August 28th, you'll be most welcome. And so I look forward to seeing you and interacting with you. And many thanks to all of you for joining. Olasimbo, Annabelle, Abiodun, Adedoyi, everyone that commented, Blessing as well. Oh, what did Blessing say? I missed Blessing's question. I'd like to ask the context of the phrase "culture is strategy editor." How does strategic communication tackle it? Yes, so strategic communication tackles. That's a very good one. Thank God I didn't miss this question. So strategic communications tackles it by the fact that it first of all recognizes. So what it does at the beginning is that you start asking the question: what are you trying to achieve? What's the problem? So if you have asked all the right questions, who are the stakeholders? What do they expect from us? Then you're not under any, you're not making any assumptions or false assumptions about things. You already know, you will get that feedback that there's a culture issue here. So you will already be mitigating against it, even in your implementation. That's the thing. So you don't, so I'll give a typical example. Because I work with the strategic communications framework, whenever I work in an organization, I don't come with a mindset of, this is what I want to do. I first listen. And like I said, Adedoyin has worked in a lot of these projects. The first things we do interviews we first ask the people, okay, this is what we want to agree. We hear from the project manager or the leader or the MD, whoever. Then we now say, please, we need to talk to people within your organization. And then we work on a set of questions and we start asking people in that organization those questions. By the time we talk to a few people, we already understand what's going on, because we've already targeted our question. This is part of the strategic communications approach. We do this even before we start any of the consulting, the strategy development, or whatever. Because at the end of the day, just like what you said, if we don't interrogate into the culture of the organization and try to find out where people's mindset is, we're likely to come up with a solution that's not going to see the light of day. So if I get feedback that shows that there's going to be a huge pushback against this thing, then that is what we will deal with even before we start whatever it is that we're doing. We will now look for how we work with the people. So we will do a stakeholder mapping even of the individuals within the organization, and that will be part of our strategy. So you see why I say you need to come into class, because for me to even explain this one, do you understand? It's a fantastic question. I'm so glad that I didn't miss it. And these are the things. So with the result that, and I'm telling you, I mean, sometimes I make some of the statements, it sounds like I'm boasting. Failure is not even something. I give God the glory. I just have to give God the glory. But failure is not something that happens is in my periphery. And I'm not, because like I said, you will have seen the problem before because you are not going blindly. You are talking to people, you are listening to what they are saying, you are reflecting on it. So I don't get it, that whole just barreling on and just saying this is what we want to do. I have never functioned that way. And even if I did earlier because I did not know better, now that I know better, I will never function that way, because I have seen very, very good strategies like what you decided actually die because nobody paid attention to the stakeholders. Remember I told you that stakeholder management framework is part of the things that we address during the course. That is exactly what, I wasn't supposed to do that. That's exactly what we get that's exactly what we learn in that course as well. The stakeholder, the stakeholder management framework is one of the things that we learn. And that really gives you a sense of, there you go. That one really gives you a sense of who you are dealing with, how to deal with them, and what they should be doing. So I think there was one question that I missed, last one. Okay, Olasibo came back to me. She said, you are targeting you are targeting the businesses in the area where the organization is situated. Okay, so if that is the case, Then that is, you can say you are doing a walkathon if that is it. But the walkathon cannot be the only way. But I'm assuming, so it's a locational, it's an environmental work. Your audience is around you, so fine, that's it could help. But I'm hoping that you are also, that as you've really done your research to know that the people near you are the people you should be targeting, because that people are near you does not mean that they will use you. Do you understand? For instance, this kimono that I'm wearing, I ordered it from Abuja. And I've never been able to order a kimono from Lagos because I've not seen anybody's kimono that fits me like these ladies' kimonos do. I have another person who supplies something, some other products to me from Kwara State. Where did I find them? On Instagram. So their brand was visible enough. And by the way, I have contributed immensely to the goodness of their business. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if they had come up with a strategy thinking their audience is only Abuja based, or in her case, Kwara Ilori based, they would have missed out on me. So again, I assume you have done your audience targeting well. If you have, then your walkathon is. The question I now want, please tell me later, did you see impact in your brand visibility? And why are you only, I hope that you are not only targeting people around you, because I don't get that. What is the job you are doing? That is only the people around you are targeting. Proximity does not translate into conversion. No. I hope, do you understand? It's okay. But I will leave it at that. So I need to bring this to a close now because we're well over time and I know people have to get back to work. Thank everyone for joining. Olasimba, I hope this answered your question. It's towards the end and I didn't see you on time. Hey, Amala business. Okay. Yes, but you can't use hair. Okay, yes. That's a comment from, yeah. You can't use McDonald's strategy to push Amala business in Nigeria. For real. Yeah, the tears will be plenty. So yeah, Adedoyin has a comment here. They're helpful in providing general frameworks. There's a new online book by the GCC by Pastor with a bit more practical. Okay, Adedoyin, please, if you can share that book, that would be wonderful. That I would even like to see that. So yeah, that may really help. So thanks a lot, everyone, and thank you for joining. You've been a wonderful audience. The interaction has been lit on this session. Thank you so much. Okay, Gloria has a question. Oh wow, questions are still coming. Okay, so Gloria says, you put a premium on communication, solidarity, that impact storytelling is a key component of our work. But yes, I agree, we need to learn from other sectors. So Gloria, please, can you share a link in the chat? Because let's practicalize this. Share a link of, how you guys communicate and how you prioritize it. I think that will really, really help us. And you're right, actually, Gloria, it sounds like you're not from Nigeria, so I should have qualified my statement, because actually that statement was more for NGOs in Nigeria. You are right. I have noticed in East Africa and other parts of Africa that they are better at strategic communications. I think they're far developed than I am. Nigerians will hate me for saying this, but I've seen evidence that I mean outside in Nigeria, I think the people who are leading on strategic communication are the multinational companies and then private sector to some extent. But in what I see in East Africa and other parts of East Africa, that is not even about the multinationals. Outside of the multinational world, in fact, I think it's even in some places, government is even leading on strategic communication and perhaps NGO and development, but it's not in Nigeria. And no, I'm not seeing that at all. So Gloria, thank you for correcting me on that. I was speaking from a Nigeria perspective. So on that note, I'm going to bring this to a close. Thank you, everyone. This was extremely engaging. I look forward to connecting with you on our next LinkedIn Live, and I hope to see some of you in class. If not, just message me, talk to me. Let's hear from you, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks, everyone. Take care.